And now, documents have surfaced that reveal that the so-called Arab Spring didn't start in the Muslim world. Well, where did it start? It started from plans in the United States to take over the Middle East, its natural resources, for the Western world. A 4-star U.S. Army General Wesley Clark. Have you heard that name before? Let me tell you what he said. He said that 10 years before 9/11, Paul Wolfowitz, I want you to keep remembrance of these names because these are a part of a shadow government. Let me say it again. These are part of a shadow government. A shadow government means you got a government out front, but you got another government behind that are trumping the things that the government out front is saying. Now I'm going to prove what I say. And you can take it or let it alone, but you'll never be able to say that Farrakhan knew the truth and was too cowardly to tell it, even at the cost of my own life. Mr. Clark said Wolfowitz, the neocon architect of Bush's war on Iraq, told him of plans to clean out the Middle East and take over those Muslim nations. Just 10 days after 9/11, Clark was shown a Pentagon memo that describes how they planned to take out 7 countries, Muslim countries, in 5 years, starting with Iraq, then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and then Iran. They call this project the Greater Middle East Project, but for the public and the media, they're calling it the Arab Spring. Journalist and historian William Engdahl is reporting that some of the Arab protest leaders were trained to be instigators in Belgrade, Serbia, by activists financed by the U.S. State Department. Now, look here. If the State Department is financing this, let's see what Mr. Engdahl has to say more. He said the ultimate goal of the United States is to take the resources of Africa and Middle East under military control in order to block economic growth in China and Russia, thus taking the whole of Eurasia under Middle East under military control in order to block economic growth in China and Russia, thus taking the whole of Eurasia under control. Now, you may not know it now, but America is already at war with China and Russia. Interestingly, AFRICOM was created just after 2006, China's Africa diplomacy, when 40 heads of African nations were invited to Beijing, China, and enormous deals were signed on oil exploration, building hospitals and infrastructure, anything the IMF did not do in Africa over the last 30 years. China and Russia has been in Africa working with African governments. Now think about this. In China, in Libya, when the fighting started, nearly 100,000 Chinese had to leave Libya. They weren't in Libya sightseeing. They were working throughout Libya, building infrastructure for development. And when NATO started bombing, Gaddafi said, no more oil to Europe, but Russia and China, they had to kill him. It's warfare. And anybody that gets in the way has to be dealt with. Today, I'm putting myself in your way. I want you to come and deal with me so that my God can show you that I'm not standing by myself. In 1974, I want you to hang with me. You won't even know the time. This thing gets better by the moment. Listen, in 1974, Henry Kissinger, who was then Secretary of State under President Nixon, signed National Security Study Memorandum 200, titled, quote, Implications of Worldwide Population Growth for U.S. Security and Overseas Interests. It was adopted as official policy in 1975 by President Gerald Ford. Now, those who analyzed the report said Dr. Kissinger proposed that, listen, depopulation. You know what that means? I'm going to say it again. Can you spell? You look it up. Depopulation should be the highest priority of U.S. foreign policy towards the third world. Africa, listen to your brother from America. Your leaders aren't worth your love. That's why Muammar Gaddafi told the people, listen to Louis Farrakhan. He will tell you what is going on.